live stream ready? Live stream, okay. All right, and I have 5 o'clock. So I'll call to order the Zoning and Adjustment Board, City of Ocean Springs, Tuesday, August 8th, 5 p.m. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the July 11th meeting. Has everybody had a minute to look at those? Have any corrections? Like to make a motion?
None.
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
Wow.
So,
Before I kill myself, I'll second.
Motion by Shannon, seconded by
I just
John,
looked at the chair.
and a pop from the chair.
We'll work whatever Alderman says there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting minutes from July 11th are approved. Next item is old business, and we have none. So we'll move on to new business. First item on the agenda, Beth and Les McCacken, 506 Martin Avenue, parcel ID number 60137586000, requesting a setback variance from 10 feet to 8 feet on the north side of a proposed new residential structure. And Wade, if you'll introduce the request.
Okay, you can see it on the properties highlighted there on the screen. It is on the, you see it's on the east side of Martin Avenue, it's north of Cleveland. It is in the Old Ocean Springs Historic District, which plays a part in the reason for the request.
Right.
Just kind of fill you in on update on things that, well, first off, they're asking for a 20% variance from the side yard setback on the north side of the property, which would allow the house to move close to the north line and allow them more room on the south side for the driveway. If you've been by the house lately, its demolition was approved by the Historic Commission and the board maybe a couple months ago, and the demolition is in process right now. Part of the house is being removed. But then, as part of that, a new house, there's been a certificate of appropriateness for a new house has been approved by the Historic Commission and by the board, and it will start construction on it in due time. One of the criteria within the historic guidelines for new homes is that carports and garages should be located at the rear of the property, either preferably at the side or preferably in the rear, so that it doesn't give appearance from the street frontage of a large garage carport. In this case, you can see from their plans, they have located the carport in the rear with the driveway running down the south side of the property, and which leads to their reason for the variance is in order to allow them some additional space on that south side for the driveway. They'd like to have the ability to reduce the setback on the north side from the standard 10 feet to 8 feet. And I think the criteria for a variance are mentioned in your report. That really sums up where staff is on this, and this way I can allow the applicant to talk about it, or if you have questions for me, glad to go there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So first thing I'll just say before we have the applicant is it's R1. R1 minimum frontage is 100 feet, and this parcel is 63. Okay. All right. All right. And would someone like to come up and speak for this request, applicant?
You did a great job.
If you'll come up and say your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Elizabeth McClankian. My husband's out of town right now. I think you did a great job describing we need a little bit of space on the south side so that we can drive through. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have one. It's just kind of hard for me to see the drawing. Is that really just your outside HVAC units that is encroaching, or the bump out? Are those ace? Is that because the yellow line is 10 feet?
Based upon our research, but that's all that's sticking out on the north side.
That would. I'm just making sure I'm understanding. So that line in the middle is the 10 feet mark.
Wait, yes,
Yeah,
it should be.
So then
yes,
we're really just talking about that little box of your utility air conditioning, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's encroaching.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was reading that.
But I don't think that
What?
that's normally considered an encroachment on the property line. I may be wrong.
I mean, that would be the
Our
variance,
code
right?
is attached to the house, it's part of the structure.
Correct.
so it
That's
is-
why you probably need the variance.
So that, the AC units are, that's what's within the 8 feet? Not
Yeah, the
not
house
not the
itself
house.
Not the house.
seems to be on the 10-foot mark.
mechanical.
Thank you. I just need to
Gotta
have
put them
that clarified
someplace.
a little bit.
Bring it back. What is the, we have any information from, this has not gone, I assume, up to up the historical district? or
They, as
anything
far
like
as, for looking at the plans and everything,
Yeah.
just not the variance.
that? Not the variance,
Right,
so
that's
it goes
what's
from us to them.
Actually, they have
This-
already looked at the plans for the house itself and approved the
Yeah, I saw that,
POA, yes.
Yeah. the plans of the house, but how about anything else?
They would not look at the variance.
They wouldn't,
The board will,
Yeah,
of course.
okay.
but not the-
So it's the board who's gonna really be the convincing body on plus yea or nay. Okay, thank you.
And Wade, so I'll go back to this, HVAC units on the side of the house. If I'm looking kind of correctly, the side of the house is 10 feet away. And, if this is to scale, then, which I assume it is, I mean, obviously it's shrunk down and distorted slightly, but I mean, the HVAC wall appears to be 5 feet. And so our HVAC, I mean, is that area considered part of the structure? And if so, does it not encroach more than 2 feet?
I don't see it as 5. I see it as more like 2 to 3 feet coming out from the house, huh?
There's a fence around it, it's part of the encroachment. The fence is not necessarily part of the encroachment.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated in that the historic guidelines recommend that utilitarian units like that, HVAC and pool pumps and such, be screened from the street. So in order to meet the historic guidelines, there needs to be that screening around it. And typically that's more akin to a fence. The AC units are, under our code, are part of the structure. It's part of the
They're hooked to the
structure
house.
for
Yeah.
setback.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So
the fence around it would not be, it would be just a
Right.
utilitarian fence.
okay. Thank you for clearing that up. All right. Any other questions? Is there anybody here? Anybody else to speak for? Anybody to speak against? All right. Any further discussion?
Since we're on the HVAC deal, I guess is there any way to move it to the back? I know it's kind of crowded back there, but
I think we could talk to the builder and see.
I'm just thinking of the neighbor to the side. Just thought, having it that close.
How big is the house? What's the square footage? So you get one unit or two?
It looks like 2
Is it 2 units?
for upstairs.
Oh, you get them upstairs?
Further discussion, or someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. So, I'm pretty much going by the potential motion to recommend approval of a variance of 20% from the minimum side yard setback distance to allow an 8-foot side yard setback along the north property line, 506 Martin Avenue, as shown on the site plan.
All right, a
Yeah.
motion.
Narrowness or as an exception? Lot narrowness?
Good point.
Yeah, please.
Due to the excessive narrowness of the existing property. Good point.
All right, so a motion by Mike. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second Shannon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion has passed. Next item on the agenda, and I'm gonna mess up the last name. I know I am. Jesse Moskowitz. All right, 409 East Beach Road, parcel ID number 60132310.000, requesting a variance for an existing fence. And Wade, if you'll introduce the request for us.
Yeah, there are two variances, specific variances being requested by the applicant in this case. One is for the height of the fence within the front yard area, and two is regarding the requirement for the finished side to face outward. You can see from the photos and the map up there, property is on the East Beach, across from the East Beach public use area, and the fence, construction on the fence was started prior to the obtaining the permit. The contractor then did come in and get the permit for the fence, as you see right there. Basically the gist of the variance is to allow this newly constructed fence to remain in its present condition. It exceeds the maximum permitted height by up to 6 inches, at least within the front yard area, and also the finished side faces the applicant's, the owner's property, rather than facing outward as required. There's a letter from Swaskowitz in the file explaining how the contractor built it, and also I believe there's a letter from an attorney representing the former adjacent property owner who no longer owns the property, just to fill you in. Letter from the Moskowitz explains how the fence got where it is and explains what their the reasons for the variance. Said the height of the fence within the front yard at about approximately 4.5 feet. That's 12.5% variance from the fence height of the requirements of the UDC. I think that concludes what I want to fill you in on this, and the Moskowitz is here to make some oral presentation and answer questions y'all have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Wade before we?
No.
All right. If you'll come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
So you got a couple of pictures, and I don't know if you're able to read the letter. And there are pictures of both sides.
Oh, the fence?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the design.
Yeah.
Right, the fence is there.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and set that.
Yep. And so we have some additional information not in our packet. We have a motion to accept into the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion Shannon. Do we have a second?
A second, sure.
John second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. They are now part of the minutes. So you can go ahead.
Kenneth Moskowitz, 409 East Beach Drive.
Is that the one?
Probably not, just at the bottom of it. The base of the, yeah, there's a button right there. Kenneth Moskowitz.
No.
Is it better? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Annette Moskowitz, 409 East Beach Drive in Ocean Spring. So as you can see from the pictures and from the letter, the reason why we decided to build the fences because we had encroaching from our neighbors, a pretty significant amount. And they were also threatening us with not just foul language, but with violence. And it was an ongoing process. We had to have the police come out a couple of times as well. And then they suggested that maybe a fence could be a good idea to put up. And so we applied for a permit, and then we found a contractor who's from the area, who's been building fences for almost 30 years, a reputable person. So we went ahead and built a fence. We tried to build it according to code. We believe that it was done according to, we tried to do the best that we could do. And as you can see from the pictures, they literally, like, it was just a couple of weeks after we moved in, they basically cleared maybe 4 to, or like 6 to 8 feet of our yard, and they tried to build a driveway over there. And like the top picture is where the property line is, and the bottom 2 pictures are how much they cleared off. So you can see that's a pretty huge difference. So we and every time we would approach the property or like get closer to their house, if they were at home, they would always like yell at us, and just the point is that we didn't feel comfortable. I mean, we have 3 children, and it's not something that we should have to worry about. So based on recommendation, we built a fence with a contractor who didn't think there was anything wrong with the fence. I mean, he's been building these fences in the area for over 30 years. We use good material. It's not in the public way. It's not a safety hazard. So that's basically the reason why we're asking for the variance.
Is it painted or finished on the outside fence,
Honestly, it's sideways.
sideways?
Like, I'm not even sure which one is the finished or the unfinished side. It was basically the contractor's choice.
Yeah, it's just a stain. It's not a color or anything. Yeah.
I mean, it's not
That is-
facing the road.
That one.
Mhm.
The outside of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like it
They're
wants
on
to-
the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the neighbors.
okay, gotcha, thank you.
The picture is on the neighbor.
The neighbor's
looking
side.
toward the-
That's taken from the east looking
This
west.
is
so
from the
that's
neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Moskowitz property is on the other side of the fence.
That's the property line right there. Sure.
Which, looking at it, it could be closed in or finished somehow if that was an issue, but.
Can you build a driveway that close to somebody else's property?
They were trying to build a
Build it
driveway.
right on it.
Yeah, and
Huh?
it was, they were, it looked like they were trying to build a driveway, but they cleared out a really long path all the way. If you look at the pictures, actually, they have a dog kennel
Yeah,
that is right on the property line.
Right. so that,
And then the way we build the fence, we actually have about 2 feet onto our property. So there is enough clearance in case, we ever need to go and do anything to it.
thank you.
All right, any further questions?
Yeah. Who was the contractor to build the
Donna,
fence? And
Donna
the
Whitman.
concern is,
Donna-
he got a permit
Donna
to
Whitman.
face it the wrong way? How's that
So
possible?
Permit
about
after.
facing the fence, I mean, it's something that we talked about with the contractor and with other people as well. I think that the fire department actually has it facing the same way as well. So there are other homes and houses where the face, like.
But the contractor got a permit to put it in, knowing that it was facing the wrong
I
way?
think the permit came.
We are the one,
After.
we got the permit,
You got the permit?
yes.
A permit was issued to you with a fence facing the wrong
It
way?
didn't say anything about facing either way.
I mean, that's the code.
Yeah.
But Don, I think
Ye-
Wade stated the permit came after.
So we did not,
So is it
the
a permit
poles,
issue or?
so the poles were down. But we
The
didn't start
posts were
building,
in?
the posts were
Mhm.
down, but we didn't start building the fence until the permit came in, because we
okay.
didn't realize that we needed a permit and then,
When did you realize that the fence was facing the wrong way?
after that letter.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't realize, I
Does
didn't know
the
that that was.
contractor have liability here? Or? I don't understand how
No.
you get a permit for something that's not in code.
Well, if
Tell me that.
I understand if you're getting a fence permit, you say, I'm putting a fence on this line, and there's your permit. It doesn't say which way are you facing it. It's
Well,
where are you
that's why
putting
the
it,
con-
where are the gates,
That's
or
why
am
you
I
have a
wrong?
contractor who knows the code.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
been in business for a long time.
Agreed, but it's not, it's not.
So how many
listed.
houses has he done this to? It's a concern. It's a concern.
I think it is, the lot's sort of unusual too, the way it comes around. I don't know.
It's just the lots are,
It's kind of bowed, I think, at the road, but
I think it's just the picture. I mean, it's basically along the property line, and then
Yeah, it's not.
at the beach here, the lines go, I guess.
It's not a perpendicular.
If that's the
Yeah,
it's
It's what you would
property line.
normally have, that perpendicular at the right-of-way line from your parcel.
and wait, another question. The length of the fence doesn't come into question because that's subdivision,
Correct.
so we don't need to look at that.
No, the one reference in the letter from the attorney about the 80-foot length and unlike, that applies to fences for subdivision, not for individual pieces of property. Like situations, say if a subdivision built a fence along the either property line or along the street right of way, that's when the requirement for the 80 feet of unbroken length comes into play, not in a situation like this.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
No.
All right. Something else comes up, we may bring you back up. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else to speak for this request? All right, anybody here to speak against this request? No. All right, further discussion.
Yeah, back to contractors building fences that don't, it's been around for a while. So, doesn't sound,
That's something they could probably go to the contractor with on the backside.
yeah, I would think you would have some, the contractor would have some
Recoup
liability.
an expense.
It always is the contractor's responsibility to understand what they're required to build. I mean, their permit indicates the location of the fence and the height of it and such. The details about if there's any specifics regarding, say, private covenants or the requirement for which way it faces, that's really their responsibility as part of the building department to inform them of all that.
On the height part, did it say 4 feet?
The permit, as he had indicated, it would be 4 feet within the 25-foot front yard area, that complies with the fence requirements, and that it's not extended to the street right of way.
So I went out and just did a little, measuring and stuff. And just, there's not a right-of-way marker that says here is the right-of-way, but just using, best information available. The existing overhead power is outside the right-of-way on the private lots. 12 feet, yeah. So, I estimated, just from information I had, that it was about 3.5 feet from the property line, is about where the overhead power was. Now, where it's actually built is about 10 feet from the edge of the fence. So, I would lean to believe that about 7 foot of fence is built inside the right of way. Now, as I said, I didn't survey it. I didn't put property corners. That's just, information that I have. Also, the 4-foot section is only 15 feet long. So if it's 15 feet long, then it's not outside of the 25-foot front yard setback before it steps up to 8 feet.
Right, that's why I put half of it there.
Yeah.
Say that part again.
So from the 4 foot, and I measured 4. So from the first post to the post where it steps up to 8 feet is 15 feet, and that is along the property line.
Mhm.
So, and the code is you can step up once you get outside that front yard setback, which is 25 feet.
So what is the distance, again, from the road to the start? Is it 12?
Oh, I did not measure. It's about 10 feet from the road to the start of the fence, I think.
12 is road to start.
But, you know, your setback is an offset from your right-of-way, so the 25-foot section measured along the property line would actually be longer than 25
From
feet.
the corner of the road.
Correct.
Right away.
Correct. So, you know, there's, 10,
27.
at least 10 feet inside the front yard setback. That's 8 feet. That needs to go down to 4 feet. That's just kind of one thing I kind of measured while I was out there.
That
It's
has
just
to go
kinda
down to
checking.
4.
Correct. Just as I said, I didn't find a property corner or iron rod or anything. But just based on what I was looking at, that overhead power is about 3 foot in their property line, and it's about dead center over the second panel.
Yeah.
Second panel.
And so, there's really about 7.5 feet, I would argue, before it steps up inside on the other side of the overhead power. But still, that's just a 15-foot section when the setback's 25. So,
Each section is, about 4 or 5 feet wide?
so if I measured 15 feet, and there's 2 sections, then
Oh, okay,
7.5.
that's
Yeah. So
That
probably
just
8
those
foot.
two.
Yeah, if you go center to center, I didn't do center to center post. Yeah.
Yeah. Guess that'd look kind of weird if you had to build a 4-foot section and a 4.5 section and an 8-foot.
So-
And then it looks like they maybe get smaller as it gets taller, the section, or are they still 7?
It's probably still 8 foot. 8 foot center on that post. It's just
I'm just looking at
because it looks taller.
they
It just
knock back.
throwing your yeah. So I mean I would contend that there's even 8 foot inside the front setback.
And also with the location, we had the property surveyors come out multiple times because they have either removed it or moved the space.
Who
Or
was?
the owners.
Oh, the next one.
That the words are property at least 2 feet. So that was also the other concern. I mean, like them building and clearing everything out. And after that, I would put down the survey specs, multiple times they have been moved. So that also made us worry about like,
Yeah, and
it's just something that you never think would happen.
yeah, and as I said, those were just some of the measurement stuff that I had best information available to me. I would because I don't have a property corner, I guess have to assume that the start of the fence is the property corner, which is there's still 15 feet before it steps up, and there needs to be greater than 25.
So that's why I was going to say to recap.
Yeah.
One of the remedies could be coming back another, you said 10 feet.
So it would be greater than 10 feet because of the way your setback isn't measured along the property line, it's measured offset of your frontage. So you offset that frontage line, and because it's got that, because if it were perpendicular, then yes, it would be 25 total. But because it's coming in this way, it's actually, this is 25, but then this,
That run is longer.
longer, yeah.
So just looking at moving forward, that's one thing we could recommend is however many feet it would need to go down from 8 to 4.
Well, so wait, what we're tasked with here today is approving or denying the 2 variances before us, not
That's it,
necessarily
not
a remedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that would be, which will be in the minutes, that would be what goes to the board.
A
Mhm.
recommended remedy in our motion.
You can make that that's part of it. And really, I guess the only real way to make a determination about it would be to have the fence itself surveyed by a surveyor to determine where the property line is, where the fence begins.
Well, to leave it as is, we still have, that still would have to happen. To leave it as it is, we still have to have the remeasurements because of that.
The only certain way to make a clear determination, as Nick was saying, that he was using the best information he had.
Yeah.
And
I think if we approve it, no, but if we didn't, they would probably have to then
Okay.
deal with that. So as far as the other one, the finished side of the fence,
And I'll jump back to, I think there is an avenue to get an approval to be taller in the front yard, but you gotta have like neighbors' signatures. I think there's a section that talks about that. You gotta have
it's
like a notarized neighbors list and,
correct.
yeah.
That within that front yard area, it can go up with the neighbor's consent.
Mhm.
And of course, in this case, the neighbor to the south is Jackson County,
Right, yeah.
so it actually would affect the neighbor there to the east.
hmm
and the new owner was notified?
They were notified of this, correct?
All right, now, sorry I interrupted you.
Oh,
You were
I was
about
just
to-
looking for us to process this through, so as far as the second motion, that could be dealt with, I guess, based on the first, but, again, I'm always looking for a remedy, I guess, in our motion, finish on the back side of that fence.
Yeah, and there's probably, 8,000 fences that face the other way, but those aren't the ones we're looking at. We're looking at this one.
Right.
We don't need more of them.
Yeah.
There are too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more about the contractor as much as that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, if you do come up, state your name, address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Amanda Morriso. I live at 6412 Savannah Drive in Ocean Springs. With the fence facing perpendicular to the road, essentially the same, what is the issue with the way it is faced? I think that's what I don't understand the most.
I think one is how it extends to the front of that, past the front of their house, right?
No. They're talking about it faces the wrong way, but regardless, when you're driving down the road, you would see both sides. So what is the issue there?
If I understand it, the word is outward, and so who is building it faces it outward. Now, if the other neighbor had built this fence to the east, it's built correctly.
The idea is, behind it is that the more finished side would face the neighbor.
Yeah.
That the utilitarian side of it
hmm
And that,
facing the person that put the fence up.
and is that because it is in front of the house? Had it been set back? No?
No,
No, it's your rear everywhere.
all
Yeah.
situations.
Okay.
hmm
Thank you.
And I am interpreting the word outward correctly in this case, correct?
That is correct,
That outward
yes.
is the applicant's outward.
And that was, I'm sure, addressed in the permit process, like Don was.
There may be, I don't know if there's
Issued a blanket permit.
and there may be a
Right, that's why it's the
fence
the
permit
contractor,
that says build outward.
New.
No, man.
And whether deliberately or however you want to say that,
Yeah.
put it,
Unknowingly,
Wrongly.
whatever.
anyway, violation of code.
All right. Further discussion, or would anyone like to make a motion? And we'll take them. Yeah, two motions, potential motions in front of us. I say we take them, one at a time. And
order, or does it matter? Nothing.
Dealer's choice.
Yeah. Well, all right, then I'm gonna make a motion, with regard to the finished side of the fence to deny the, request.
All right, we have a motion to recommend denial of a variance to allow the finished side of a fence to not face outward at 409 East Beach Drive. Don made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Need to do a roll call? Let's do a roll call. Start down there. Aye.
Aye, yeah.
Aye.
Nay,
Nay.
So the I will say aye to recommend denial of the variance to allow the finished side of the fence to not face outward.
Okay.
And so that one, and let's go ahead and take the second one. So,
I thought that was,
the second one of the
That's first.
second, first of the two, yeah. Anyone like to make
So I'll
a
do so with regard to the first motion, so I'll recommend approval of a variance of 12.5% from the maximum height of the fence within the required front yard area at 409 East Beach Drive.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Don to recommend approval of a variance of 12.5% from the maximum height of a fence within the required front yard area at 409 East Beach Drive. Do we have a second?
second.
We have a motion by Don, second by John. All those in favor? Sounds
Roll
like
call.
another roll call.
For approval, right? For approval, right?
Yes. So Mike, nay.
Yay.
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 nay.
Nay. Nay.
Okay,
So,
To recommend, yes. The approval failed, yes. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to deny a variance of 12.5% from the maximum height of a fence within the required front yard at 409 East Beach Drive.
All right, the second motion on the floor to recommend denial of a variance of 12.5% from the maximum height of a fence within the required front yard area at 409 East Beach Drive. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Let's do a roll call.
Aye.
Oh, Michael with second, sorry.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. Flip. Yeah. So the motion to recommend denial passed, and both of these will be on the Board of Aldermen meeting
Next week.
next Tuesday at 6 o'clock in this room.
So, in a situation like this, I think if I spoke to the neighbors and then they write an authorized letter that they don't have a problem with the fence, would that be something to consider for the board?
Wade, I'm going to say that you know that section of the ordinance better than I did. I just know it exists. I don't know. I think there are still several kind of outline things in there.
And then
And
if
then-
there are any other options that we have, or like how to
Yeah.
proceed from?
And then,
If
yeah,
you want to appeal their decision, just send Wade an email that says you want to appeal the denial, and then we'll put it under new business.
Like
And you
just,
can discuss it.
just an email, or is it a form?
No, there's no form, but there's two avenues. One would be to appeal the zoning board's recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. An email from you is almost needed for that.
To you?
To me, yes. I think you've got my email address.
Yes.
Okay. Then if you want to pursue the permission from the adjacent, or the okay of the adjacent owner regarding the height of it, let me look into that tomorrow to see exactly what is required. I think basically what is needed is a notarized letter from that property owner that allow the fence to exceed 4 feet of height.
if I remember, Wade, there's like an ABC or something. Yeah. I think there's like an ABC. I think it's not just one thing. a couple things.
But you said, is there a form letter basically that the,
There's not really a form letter. I can send you some other letters that have been used in similar situations would work there.
okay.
But,
And
we'll
would
look at that.
that work for the side of the fence as well?
I don't think that would. Let me look at it. I don't think that will apply to the finished side facing outward.
Yeah.
It only applies to the height of it.
So the finishing of the side is basically a problem for the county, not for the neighbors?
Hmm.
Or, I'm still trying to.
Yeah, it's a violation, it's a violation of code.
So
The
I-
contractor
so
should know, not, you
Yeah,
should speak to your contractor.
So what we'll do is we can follow up a little bit after this. If we can go ahead and just finish out this meeting, and then we'll discuss. Okay.
Okay, now would I get an email or?
No. Just right after we kind of go through this. Yeah. Then we can chat with Wade, Carolyn, and talk about what we need to do. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is audience request, and our audience has grown greatly since last time. Anybody talk to Zab? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion Shannon. Second
Second.
John. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Finders.
Yeah, a little bit. No, yeah, you can talk about Murphy or, yeah, sure. No,
We went one weekend, man,